listeners. Welcome to another episode of Romance Unraveled. This is one of your co hosts, Jacob Bozen.
And I'm Chelle Rowan.
And for this week, we had you guys submit into some questions to us that we'll have answered for you. There's about 10 of them. Hopefully, we can get through all of them. So I guess Chelle and I will just jump right into it and see what we can come up with here. So, our first question that you submitted to us is, how do I know when I'm genuinely ready to date again after a tough breakup? I'll let you take it first.
Okay, well, there is actual research-based answer for this. You're ready to date again when you're no longer using dating to regulate pain. So there's relationship science shows us that people who date again too soon are often seeking distraction, validation, or emotional regulation, not true connection. So, for instance, if you're just out of a relationship and you're feeling really lonely and you're not wanting to self reflect on what you learned in that relationship, you're probably not ready to get into another relationship. And there's a lot more information, but I would say that you're ready to date again when you're no longer using dating to numb your pain. And the research shows that you're ready to date when you can think about your past relationship without emotional flooding, when you can tell a clear, coherent story about what happened, and when you're curious about the connection rather than desperate for it. How many of us has been out with people that are clearly desperate for anything, right? So if imagining your ex with someone else doesn't destabilize you, that's probably a sign that you are now ready.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. Yeah, I would approach it the same exact way. I think if you're getting back into dating after a breakup to kind of operate as a distraction, then that tells yourself that you're not ready to get into it. Um, I think it's
Right.
pretty simple, but you said it better than I could. Okay, so let's go to the next question.
The next question is question two. Is it a red flag if someone still talks to their ex every day, even if they say it's purely platonic?
Okay, so this is interesting because a lot of these questions that we're going to be going through right now are questions that pertain to me. I don't know why they were submitted this way, but for example, um, my boyfriend right now, he lives with his ex still.
What? I did
Yeah.
not know that,
But he
which is actually a question a little bit later.
right, yeah, exactly. So I was like, who
Yeah.
the hell knows this and who's submitting these questions?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let's just stick on this one. So even if they're talking to their ex every day and they say it's purely platonic, let's leave the living until later because that question's
sure,
actually coming.
sure. I would say it just depends on how recent their breakup was. I mean, I would assume it, if they're getting into a relationship with you, their breakup was probably a long time ago. And in some cases, people, decide to be friends at the end of the day after a breakup. That's something that I cannot do for myself. I like to
I
move
don't think it's
along.
healthy, Jacob.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like if you're wanting to move on and what you're looking for is partnership, why are you clinging to an ex?
Yeah, I
There's no
agree.
purpose for it. Even if you're like, we should have been friends instead of lovers, well, you weren't. So you gotta cut that loose.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, some people can do it. It's weird. Like I talk to some people and they say, "Yeah, I'm good friends with my ex," and it's just weird to me to hear because out of all the people that I've dated, I wouldn't want to be their friends after everything was said and done.
Yeah. I think that this is complicated too. Like you're in your late 20s, I'm in my late 50s. And then, of course, I'm a cisgendered um, monogamous woman, and you are a gay man. So, like, but you're monogamous. And I think that there might be some little nuances with inside that. I'm not sure because I haven't ever been in a same-sex relationship, but like I have so many intimate relationship with my women friends, but that intimacy isn't sexual and it's not emotional dependency.
Right.
And I think that those are the nuances, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if someone's leaning on their ex for emotional comfort, or they still are wanting to be a part of their life and getting daily updates, they're processing what's going on in their life, they're looking for soothing. All of that is um, in just about every relationship book you can find. I know Dr. Helen Fisher and the Gottman Institute does a lot about this, um, because those circuits just don't turn off. Like we create neurological pathways, oxytocin, dopamine, and attachment circuitry. And if you haven't created a cutoff point for that, then you're not giving your brain the opportunity to format new pathways for another relationship
Yeah, for
because
sure.
that attachment bond is still active.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Third question. I left the Mormon church, but I'm dating someone who's still active. How do we navigate differences in beliefs, boundaries, and lifestyle expectations?
I read this question before, like you sent them to me 20 minutes before the show. And this question, I feel like you could do an entire show on
Yeah.
because Mormonism is so different than a lot of other religions. Like, there's a lot of people who say, well, I'm Catholic, but their Catholicism isn't um, like super, like they maybe go to mass on Christmas, right? But Mormonism tends to be a very high demand religion. And so I think this question is really complex. I think you have to ask yourself, can our values, boundaries, and emotional worlds honor each other? Because your beliefs, if you're not in that same high demand religion, um, it can be complex, right? Because in Mormonism, it's not just the religion and faith itself. It it goes into other areas like modesty, what kind of clothes you wear, is there alcohol in your home? Is it going to be okay for me to have my morning coffee and you're not going to be appalled at the smell of that? Or do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like Mormonism is in every day of your life. It's not just on Sunday. So I think that this is kind of a complex question, don't you?
For sure. And I think it goes beyond what we were just talking about as well. So, Mormons believe that once you're married, you are like bound for eternity, essentially. And
Right.
that person who is still active is looking at you and thinking, well, I'm not going to be with you for eternity because you're not Mormon anymore. And so that kind of creates a lot of conflict, I feel like, in the relationship. And a lot of the times, I feel like it's not even said. It's kind of something that's kicked to the curb and they avoid it just to have the relationship continue. But I do know someone who is actually in this situation and she her husband is active in the Mormon church and she is not, and she's totally against it, but they respect each other. But at the same time, I'm thinking, well, in his mind, he thinks he's not going to be with you. And so that opens up a lot of problems.
Yeah, I've always been really curious about this one because when I started dating, I should disclose I was active Mormon for like 25 years. I was sealed in the temple to my spouse. But we were having a faith crisis when he was on his deathbed. And we talked about what it would mean if I left the church because that would break our sealing. And then what would happen in the eternities, right? And he said to me, we've always been together and we always will be together. And he would support me whatever I felt like I needed to do. So that is a nuance that I think is really deeply grounded, right? Because, like, if you actually believe in your faith and you believe you need this temple ceiling in order to share eternity together, that is an absolute, it's not going to happen. So you are only married for time, and he is promised that he will be sealed to some other woman so that he can receive exaltation if he's been a good and faithful man,
Right.
whether it was in this lifetime or in the next. And and in that sense, the Mormon Church still practices fundamentally um, polygamy.
Yeah.
But it also, like when we're talking about a younger person, it's not just it's like community pressures. It's rules around leadership, gender, what the family should look like, temple participation, like we spoke about. But the upbringing of those future children, I think, would be a real key problem. Like, wouldn't that man want to be sealed to his children? And are they raised in that faith? And then what does that say about their let's say it's the mother that's not practicing. What does that say to the children if they're raised in the faith, but they're like, mom's not going to be in our family eternally? Like,
Right.
how does that create her value, her worth? Like it's so complicated, but I would say interfaith relationships can thrive when the curiosity is stronger than the need to convert somebody. I find that really difficult to believe that the conversion rate would not be there in a Mormon household. Research does show, and Gottman did a lot of studies on this, that it's shared values, which I don't think we spend enough time pre-dating understanding our own values so that we understand the person that we're getting in a relationship have similar shared values. We don't have to have identical beliefs. That's not the predictor of success.
Yeah.
It's shared values.
Yeah.
And the real question would be, do you feel emotionally safe to be yourself in this relationship? Are your boundaries being respected? And are you going to honor each other's spiritual path without pressure or fear? And I say it with the emphasis on pressure and fear like that because having lived in organized religion most of my adult life, I think that there is a lot of pressure and fear with any organized religion. So I think that it really would be dependent on the person's religious beliefs and the other person's religious beliefs or lack of them, and the ability to respect it for both partners. If neither person is going to have to shrink who they are to stay connected, then it could possibly work. I feel like it would be hard for it to work in a high demand religion.
I agree. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question.
I matched with someone amazing, but they only want to communicate by text and avoid calls or FaceTime. Is that suspicious or just normal modern dating?
So I can speak to this as well. So my boyfriend right now, he's a texter. He hates phone calls, does not like FaceTime. It's not something that he avoids to do. Um, but like just prefers texting. So like when I call him or whatever, he will answer. It's just not the way that he will go about communicating with me. As far as that being suspicious, I think it depends on if they take your calls or your FaceTimes. If they don't, then I would say that that's totally suspicious and you should dig a little bit deeper into that.
Hmm. I think that we have to kind of rely, and my basis is kind of the intuitive life guide. Like I'm always pointing people back to their natural intuition, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that our intuition tells us a lot, but there's some science here too. And texting can be a sign of emotional distancing, and it can be based in attachment theory. So some people who only want to text can feel like they're they're wanting to protect themselves from being controlled, or they want to keep this low risk and emotionally buffered, right? For an avoidant attacher, this can feel safer than someone's tone of voice that they might hear, and they may interpret or misinterpret a certain way. Um, FaceTime, it could be a facial expression, real intimacy, and a deeper presence. And this doesn't mean that they're deceitful, but it could mean that they're struggling with deeper connection. And I've been in some of these relationships myself, so I feel like I could speak to it anecdotally as someone who's gone through this. I just want to let people know it's not your job to guess. Your job is to observe. And of course, this would assume that you are regulated yourself, right? The real question is not why are they doing it, but does this give me the connection that I'm looking for? Is this what you really desire? Is a text only relationship where you're not really meeting in a connected, intimate way? So I think that those are kind of the questions that you need to ask yourself. Maybe,
Yeah.
can this person meet me where I want to be met? Do our communications align? Do I feel closeness or distance? And I think most people, when you're in a relationship, we're seeking connection. So I think for most people, this is probably not going to work long term, right?
Yeah, I agree with
So
that. I
I
think,
think that there needs to be some boundaries around this. Like, I love getting to know you. I prefer at least some real-time connection. If that doesn't work for you, no harm, but it is not going to work for me. And that's you having a boundary to protect yourself. But that also means that you have to be regulated and secure, because if you're anxious, you're probably going to go, well, at least I'm getting something here. But that feeds into a question that we have coming up later. So I would
right.
say texting only communication is common, but when someone avoids calls or FaceTime entirely, it's often a sign of emotional distancing. And the research shows that clearly. It can be a sign of avoidant attachment, a low investment, or a desire to limit intimacy entirely.
Yeah.
And instead of guessing the reason, ask whether this kind of communication gives you the closeness you want. Healthy partners rise to meet your needs. Unavailable ones will reveal themselves early on, and you should let them and move on.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Our fifth question is, I've been seeing a guy for 2 months. He's sweet in person, but disappears for days at a time with no explanation. When he comes back, he acts like nothing happened. Am I being love bombed, breadcrumbed, or something else?
Hmm. Well, this is what I was referring to. The breadcrumb. So, breadcrumbing is something that's really common in avoidant attachment relationships, where they show a little bit of interest, they seem a little bit vulnerable, but then after that vulnerability, they pull away. And then you're left wondering, well, like, I liked that, and they were starting to show up, and I was feeling this connection, but now I'm having this disconnection. And there is so much science on this. If you read any attachment book, and I forget the guy who did the original study, but there's a guy who did the study with rats, and he put cocaine in one water feeder and intermittent cocaine in another one. And at first, the rats with the cocaine were like all into the water feeder, but eventually they just lost interest because they knew it would be there. And the one that had intermittent watering cocaine in the water feeder would go and like really be waiting for that next hit. And they didn't know when it was coming, so they were constantly checking the water. And that is how our brain actually responds in love and with the biggest drug that we have naturally occurring in our body, which is oxytocin.
Yeah.
So breadcrumbing is a horrible way to live. When people are disappearing, you can be assured it's not chemistry, it's not sweetness, it's not the charm. It is their pattern, and it's really clear what it means. Um, Classic intermittent reinforcement is what it's called in relationship science, and it is the most addictive pattern in relationships. It's confusing, it creates craving, it creates self blame. You start to feel like I'm not enough, you start to lose self confidence. I'm too much, I'm not enough. It creates anxiety, longing, a lot of confusion, and you start to over focus on the good moments because you're waiting for those moments to come back. But it's really unhealthy. There's a I think it was Helen Fisher who does a lot of research with the Gottman Institute, and she shows that inconsistent partners activate the same neural pathways as gambling in the brain. So when I'm saying it's addictive and it is the most addictive hormone in our body, it's that release, that craving, it is so addictive. So you can get addicted to it, but it's not necessarily stabilizing you. And it's not what you're seeking. It's not secure functioning.
Yeah. I
So I
think
think go ahead.
for this one, I guess my answer would be pretty simple. So out of everything that they said in their question, they say disappears for days.
Yeah.
And they've been dating for 2 months. So my advice would be to kick him to the curb or yeah, kick him to the curb. They're talking about a guy.
Yeah.
Um, because that's stupid. Like it's the breadcrumbing. It just like you said, like it's not worth your time.
No, it's not worth your time. And I, I'm coming out of a relationship, and this hit home for me, where he was an avoidant, and he was aware of it, and he kept telling me he was going to work on it, but then he didn't. And then he was really surprised when I'm like, I'm done. Like, if you feel like you need to go home to now work on this, when you kept saying for a year you were going to work on it with me here, it's like I have to be done. Like I cannot wait for my life any longer. It creates it's not compatibility. It's a dysregulated nervous system. And I felt pretty secure myself it going into this relationship, but I am telling you, I am literally having to re-regulate my nervous system, and it is quite the job. So I I just think these relationships are really damaging. And if you're in it in a couple months and you can see it, get out.
Yeah, I agree.
Get out
Okay.
because there's nothing there.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question.
My boyfriend says he loves me, but he refuses to post any pictures of us together because he says he hates social media. Part of me believes him, but part of me wonders if he's hiding. What do I do?
For this one, when he says that he hates social media, my first, I guess, thing that I would want to find out is if he's actually active on there a lot. And if he is active on there, there's a different reason why he's not showing you on
100%.
social media. And so that's how I would approach it. I think it's pretty simple. He probably is hiding something, and he's not wanting to show you off as, I guess, his partner or whatever. If he's actively on there but says he hates it. Yeah, that's how I would approach it.
Yeah, not posting a relationship isn't automatically suspicious, but it is meaningful behavior, right? So, public acknowledgement is linked to commitment. So some people truly don't like social media. They don't do it. They're not on it very often. They don't post, but others will avoid posting because of like if they're an avoidant attachment, they want to appear unavailable to other people. I think what you said, Jacob, is the key. Consistency. If he includes you in every part of his life except online, that's not a preference. That's just a pattern. Your desire to be seen, that's not necessarily insecurity, it's biology. And healthy partners will want to meet you in the light that you want to be met, right? So yeah, like if it's their pattern and they're not posting anything on social media, that's not necessarily a red flag. But if they're active on it and they don't want to share that they're in a relationship, I would say, hello, red flag.
Yeah, yep, I agree. Okay. Our seventh question is, when do you know it's the right time to introduce someone to your friends or family? This is
Ugh.
funny because I'm going through this as well. Um, so my boyfriend, um, I think, I guess to simply answer this is just it depends on when you become exclusive or you actually put a title on things, I think. And if that person is comfortable meeting your friends or family, because meeting your friends or family it helps you a lot in the relationship just because they're able to see things that you might not be able to see about somebody. And so for me, it really doesn't matter when that happens. I would be concerned for myself if it was more later in the game. I would also be concerned if it was like super duper early in the game as well. I think a good happy medium is probably the what you would want to shoot for, because it kind of allows you not to get super invested. But then once you do get invested, by introducing them to your friends and family, they're able to kind of, like I said, see things that you might not be able to see from your perspective.
Yeah, I think if you do it too early, it can create a misunderstanding or mismatched expectations or maybe a false sense of commitment. But I think if you ask yourself kind of like four questions, are we seeing each other intentionally? Are we exploring exclusively or not? Is this a connection moving forward to a deeper partnership? You don't need to know that it is 100% that, but if you feel like it's moving towards that, I think that that's probably aligned. And then are we aligned in the pace and expectations, which would be like, is your partner comfortable with that? That nobody's meeting anyone's family before the other partner feels okay about it. That is
Yeah,
open communication.
for sure. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Well, how can I tell the difference between normal relationship nerves and real incompatibility?
This is an interesting one. I would say, and no matter what relationship you are in, typically at the beginning, there's always going to be the relationship nerves,
Yeah.
that can carry on years down the road as well. Um, and that can come from anxiety or different attachment styles that you may have. As far as real incompatibility, that could be emotional, personal, and sexual, I feel like. And so, if you have a ding on any of those three, I think that kind of points to real incompatibility. But if it's more something is you're unsure of where it's going or anything like that, I feel like that's a relationship nerve.
Yeah, I think that we have to kind of rely on our intuition. Like when something feels expansive, like it's open, warm, grounded with excitement and curiosity, that feels good to us, right? But if we feel like we have to shut down, we're shrinking who we are, there's some exhaustion, like we feel a little bit drained after being with this person, or there's some unease, then that's probably not what we're looking for. I think nerves are normal when we start any new relationship, and they come from both vulnerability, but also our desire. Incompatibility shows up as confusion, contraction, and misalignment.
Yeah.
Nerves can ease as the relationship finds its rhythm. Incompat- Incompatibility, that creates that repeating pattern of instability. And you know what that feels like. I feel like we deny this a lot of time, especially when we're dating and we're just so hungry to have somebody see us and to be able to see another person, right? I mean, we're all driven for connection. So I think our body knows the difference. Nerves feel like excitement with a heartbeat. Incompatibility feels like unrest that just doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a
It,
good distinction.
yeah, it kind of leans into anxiety more than excitement. But I think that that's sometimes hard for us to parse out because when we're feeling anxiety, like say you're standing on a cliff and you've got a parachute on the back of you and you're gonna jump off this cliff. You're you're feeling your heart rate is rising, your blood pressure is rising, you've got pounding in your chest, and then it's the story you tell yourself about it that makes it either anxiety or excitement, right? Because it kind of can feel the same way. And I think it's those small little things of like if we're feeling drained after this person, we're feeling anxious, we're starting to doubt ourselves. I think that those are the clues that help us tune into whether this is an expansion relationship or if it's something that contracts us.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, our ninth question is, I started dating a guy who checks every box except he still lives with his ex because they signed a year-long lease. He swears they're over. Am I crazy for continuing this?
So is this exactly the relationship you're currently in?
Yeah, yeah.
How long,
So I'm
how
like,
much
who?
longer on the lease?
I think it's like a year, the same thing as this question. So I guess who knows my life
Had they just
better?
signed it?
In September or October. Yeah.
Wow, so
So
pretty new.
I guess it depends on your trust for that person. So typically in the past, that would be a huge anxiety provoking red flag for me. But my boyfriend trash talks his roommate a lot
Hmm.
and was like, no, like it's like he does not like him at all. The only thing that is concerning to me, and he'll probably listen to this, so I guess we should talk about it, but he hasn't had me over to his apartment yet because he doesn't want to make his roommate or his ex uncomfortable. And that to me is kind of weird. So that's something that I need to address. Probably do that today, actually.
Yeah, so that you can
Um,
post this.
yeah. And I don't think it's crazy for continuing it. I just think you have to be careful with how you approach it, and kind of
So,
keep your eyes open.
so as your friend Jacob, I think that it kind of goes back to an earlier question that we had. Our body remembers routines, intimacy, our conflict patterns, the rules that we shared inside the household, comfort and familiarity. And those things create neural pathways that don't vanish. In fact, that even if he was to leave that relationship today, it would literally take him 3 to 6 months for those things to diminish in his brain. Now, he is in a relationship with you, so I'm not saying that it's all bad, but it's not neutral either, right? And
Yeah.
I will say, I have a girlfriend, and I hope I won't use her name, but she was in a polyamory relationship, and she divorced her ex, but he lived with her for 3 years and they shared a bed. Now, she was in another relationship with another man, and they had both of them, both this woman and her ex, both ended up in different relationships that are monogamous. And I would just say things to her like, is he going to wait forever, this new man, even though he lived this lifestyle at some point too? I mean, he's clearly showing a lot of patience and love for you, but like, I would never be okay with my person sleeping in the same bed that they used to be intimate with that person. Like, that's
Yeah.
just too close.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not okay. So I think that it's okay. I, I guess I will say it's not necessarily bad, but I don't think there's nothing positive about it, but it's not neutral either.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
agree with that.
especially if they're sharing the same space, finances, chores, the bed, daily interactions and emotional reliance, then that breakup's not complete. And so I think it gives people a right to pause. But I also think that there are markers for clean boundaries, like behavioral separation. They're sleeping in separate bedrooms, they're not sharing routines or finances,
Right.
they have separate responsibilities. Like all of these things are separate. The emotional rules are separate. Are living independently, like roommates, not like in a partnership.
Yeah.
But
Okay. So
then
let's
you
go to
have
the
to hold on.
let's go to the next question because we're almost out of time, and
Okay.
let's do a one sentence answer to this one so we can
Okay.
both close
You're
it
so
out.
short. Well, I'm going to finish my response to you offline because,
Okay.
like, there has to be some boundaries here.
Yeah.
Okay, 10. I went on a first date and that was perfect until he told me he's moving across the country in 3 months. He wants to keep seeing me anyway. Should I give it a chance or cut things off?
My simple answer to this is kick his ass to the curb. It's not going to work.
Amen. My simple answer was hell no.
Yeah.
I think that anyone is worthy of a person who's not passing through, right? We're worthy of people who stay, who's going to have some roots and reaches for us with intention. But when you have somebody that's just going to be around for 3 months and then they're moving across country, what are you establishing?
Right. Yeah.
I just think it's a hell no. And on top of it, and you know this better than anyone, long distance relationships are really, really difficult,
Right.
even in the best of circumstance.
Yep, they just don't work. Yeah. So,
Well, I mean, I think that there's proof that sometimes they can. Um, uh, they don't work for you, they don't work for me. And I think all these questions go back to if you're really secure within yourself, you know what you're looking for, pretty much you're not putting up with any of these questions. You're just going to be like, this isn't going to work for me. Like if these things don't work for you, then they don't work. And you don't have to ask yourself any questions. You just need to know this doesn't work for me and I'm moving on.
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, we can close it here so we are not kicked out. But thanks, listeners, for submitting the questions. As always, make sure you subscribe and save. We're streaming anywhere you can get your podcasts. Make sure you follow us on social media as well. It's Romance Unraveled on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And if you have a story you'd like to share, you can submit to me directly on one of those platforms, and I'll get you scheduled to come onto the show. Until next time.